Welcome and thanks for joining us. I'm Jackie Sabrin, your host, and this is the Engaged at Any Age Summit. And today I'm really excited about our expert, Elena Lipson. Thank you so much for being here, Elena.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm thrilled to have you speak to women about showing up for themselves and how to just be more in touch with themselves so they can achieve so many more things in their life, such as getting engaged at any age. But before we jump into the interview, I'd like to tell the audience just a little bit more about you. You are a divine self-care mentor, transformational coach, retreat leader, and creator of the 21 Days of Divine Self-Care online course. And you work with women all over the world to become the #1 asset in their lives, business, and bedroom so that they can reconnect to their purpose and passion. Ooh, that's really, really yummy. I love it. And so tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do in your own words, so that I was reading that so the audience can get a real feel for you.
Thank you. I always love hearing it back because I always I'm nodding. Yes, I love that. That is what I do. So, as you mentioned, I do work with women all over the world as a transformational coach, and that includes helping women to create strategies and practices and rituals on a daily basis. And you know what it's like to be able to show up every day, right? It's about showing up with energy, with enthusiasm, and also allowing the kind of pitfalls of your day to flow smoothly as well. So I teach practices and rituals and strategies in life and business and the bedroom to allow you to kind of find your own flow, to really tune into what your needs are, to start listening to your rhythms. And as you know, as women, we have lots of different rhythms, both monthly rhythms and yearly rhythms and age rhythms. And so that's what I do. And it really leads to all kinds of amazing things: success in your business, better relationships, heightened intuition, and just more joy, more happiness. So that light, right, that we're all looking for. So that's what I do.
That's excellent. I'm so glad that you're a part of the summit, and you talk a lot about self-care. And I just wanted you to share with the audience how self-care has helped your relationship.
Yeah, in so many ways. You know, I've been married, oh my gosh, we've been together for about, he's going to kill me because I can't remember the number, 13 years married almost, 15 together, something like that. So I can't remember, oh my gosh. And I can't even remember how old I am sometimes, so I'm sorry for that. But it's the numbers kind of escape me.
It's like you're not so focused on that. It's time.
No.
Oh, I love that you said that. It's just letting it go.
Letting it go. I'm sometimes not focused on it. But as I look at the progression of how it's affected my relationships, it's been amazing. You know, I've had one long-term relationship before my husband where I was thinking actually about this prior to our call, like how was I then and how am I now and how has that changed and how has self-care really helped me to step into my own sort of power and my voice. And I remember spending a lot of time not really saying what was on my mind, not saying what was in my heart, just sort of almost stepping back from my true nature and sometimes not even knowing what my opinion was and really not spending time figuring that out. So I said yes to a lot of things personally and in my life that I didn't really want to do, or I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to. And maybe that's part of growing up as well, like in that time of your life. But then I spent some time alone, which was amazing. And I highly recommend spending some time with yourself at some point in your life, not in relationships, so you can really get to know what it is that you do want. What do I want to eat? How do I want to live? Where do I want to, spend my time? How do I want to show up in my work? So when I found my relationship now, when we got together, I was very clear, like, I am not a mind reader and I don't expect you to be. Let's just be honest with what we have to say to each other and what we feel. And that really was the kind of foundation of our relationship, so that as we went, if I needed a day away or if I needed to spend time with my friends or whatever it was, I would say it. And sometimes through shaking hands, like, oh my gosh, this is what I need. And that's really influenced how we, to this day, communicate, how we parent together, how we choose the way we co-create our lives together. So by me getting to know my own needs, by saying, I need a night off, I need to go take a bath, or I need to go do my thing with my friend today, like without apology, really without apology. And we laugh sometimes that, we've really kind of come to the place where we don't ask each other permission. We just share what we really need. So that has affected our relationship dramatically in that it feels very honest. And it feels very present, and it feels like I'm getting my needs met, and so is he, and we can show up to this space willingly together. No one's there because they're, handcuffed there. We want to be there.
Yeah, and so you're talking about when self-care, and you took some time to get to know yourself. What are the things that you did during that time to get to know yourself? Because I imagine it took a lot of courage for you to be able to state what your needs were. I think when we're girls, we're used to pleasing because that's how we get along, get our needs met. But then as adult women, it doesn't serve us well. It kind of shows up as low self-esteem. And so, what's some of the strategies around that self-care time that you took to really get to know yourself?
Yeah, and it's funny, I didn't really call it self-care then, but of course now I can look back and see that the things that I was doing have turned into this really passionate, career that I have now in business that I've built around teaching women self-care. So if I look back on it, I can see what I was doing then, which was really consciously creating my space that I lived in, choosing things that I love to be around, spending time. I took dance classes and voice classes and swimming, like all kinds of things that I was trying things out. I traveled. I think where it really came in key was to start saying what I felt when I felt it instead of holding it for later. So the communication piece was really important. And I've been blessed with really good friends along the way that I've had for a long time. So I feel like you can either strengthen a relationship by speaking your mind, or you can really weed out the relationships that are not on solid ground by starting to speak your mind. So like you had said, women are generally pleasers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, we want to take care of people, we want to do good, we want to give presents, and we want to nurture. We do that so easily for other people. The key is finding the time to do it for yourself. So that's essentially what I was doing around that time. I was nurturing myself in any way that I needed to at that point without having to check in with somebody else, so that then when I finally was in a relationship, I knew how to do that myself. I knew how to nurture myself. I wasn't waiting for the other to come and give me what I knew I needed. So I would buy myself flowers every week. And that was like a habit that I had. I loved, setting a beautiful table for dinner. I had beautiful dishes that I loved to use. I loved my bedding. Like, I wasn't waiting for someone to show up for me to do that. And it wasn't with any anger at all. It was just an understanding that I wanted to. So as I saw myself and kind of enjoy myself and then show up differently because of that, I saw the effect around it. People were noticing that I was happy. My relationships in general got more honest and better. And now when I overlay all of the things that I've sort of been practicing all my life, morning routines, morning self-care routines, meditation, exercise, dancing, really finding time to play just for its own joy without having any sort of financial, benefit. Those affect how I show up for my clients. It affects how I show up for my relationships and for myself too, and as a mom now. So it's the overall theme of my life. When I'm stuck, I turn to self-care. I'd more likely take a bath in the afternoon than get on some strategy call with, to try to figure it out. I don't push through. I just sort of lean back and just see what I need. So it really does affect everything.
I love that you just said that you just lean back. And so it's women, and I know that you've talked about this before, it get going and they get so busy, and it's like we're pushing to make something happen. But I love how you just said that you lean back. Can you talk more into that? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think we have a tendency as women to push through being tired and push through like not knowing, but you can feel your intuition in your body telling you to go take a break, take a walk outside, and you just kind of know, I'm going to push through and do it. And there are times for that. Like, if I'm working on a project or a launch or a course and I know I'm going to get it done, I will stay there, and I'm so engrossed in the process that I will get it done. But when I start feeling that, just that sort of, we all know how that feels, when our body's just done and we need to go lay down. I'm so in tune with that now that I don't find myself pushing through that tired emotion to get to exhaustion and overwhelm, because then I find you sort of give yourself an excuse to say, oh, I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm just, and you walk away from everything, versus figuring out when you work best, when is your most productive time, doing that. When do you want to go away for the day and not have, anything to do that day? Like, just finding that rhythm that you work in, and then allowing that to inform how you show up with other people too. So when it comes to finding that person that you want to be with in a wonderful way, like you want to be loving, you want to be present, you want to be authentic in yourself, we sometimes push through a knowing that something's wrong and we don't stop to acknowledge it. So there's a lot of similarities in, working in your business, working in your relationships. So for me, if I'm sensing something's off, I'll just say it, feeling really disconnected right now. Can we just like stop and go for a walk, or go like, do something silly, or go dance, or I do this thing where I'm like, we have to go wrestle now because I need to get something out, so we have our own language that we've created. But we tend to push through the knowing that we need to stop, and then we end up just tired, exhausted, sick, like I did, where we don't have to. I just don't think we have to go into overwhelm. We don't have to tell that story anymore at all. We can choose to just say pause, like press that sparkly pause button and just say what you need to say and then move on, or do what you need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that that you're sharing this, because it's just such a common thing with women. Mm-hmm. And not going into overwhelm, because overwhelm is just kind of it's your body saying that you need to pause, really. And if you keep going, then it just makes things worse in so many different ways. And so I'm so glad you shared that. Now you talk about the connection between self-care and receiving pleasure. So I'm curious about, if you can expand on that statement.
Yeah, so again, I think this goes back to us as women. We want to give. And we become this sort of, our friends expect us to give in a certain way. Our family expects us to give in a certain way. And when it comes to receiving pleasure, I mean, if you just kind of close your eyes for a second and imagine someone, coming to your door and like giving you a gift, you'd be like, oh, no, it's okay. Like, not everyone, but I think initially there's that thing of receiving. So just sitting back and allowing someone to take care of you, sitting back and like letting someone else clear the table for, and after dinner, like don't like feel like you have to constantly be on top of that. So when it comes to receiving in the bedroom, or when it comes to taking the afternoon off and going to get a massage just because it feels good, there's always that rationalization like, oh no, I need to go do this, or this needs to get done, or I need to go clean the house, or there's other things that are more important. So we tend to put other things above our own pleasure. So I guess the first question is really to ask yourself, like, what does bring me pleasure? And I have a mantra in my work that I teach my clients, and I teach my, the women that I sort of am peers with. When something good happens, or when something feels like you're just kind of at your edge of receiving something that's bigger and you're about to shut down, I say, here's the mantra. I learned a version of it a while ago, but I've sort of morphed it into my own, which is, I see it, I allow it, I fully receive it, thank you, more please. And, I try to say that every day, because it really, everything from slowing down and enjoying your shower, to slowing down and enjoying a kiss, slowing down and enjoying just sitting and feeling the breeze on your face. We just don't do that enough, because there's no monetary value to it, or we can't see the result of it right away. But if you really pause and notice how you feel even when you receive, a compliment. So many women will talk ourselves out of that compliment, or what I hear mostly is, oh, that's a great shirt, I love it. Oh yeah, it was so cheap, I got it at the thrift store. Like, just say thank you. Like, just receive it. So I think it's just a habit of story that we've gotten into, and so if we can retrain ourselves to just say thank you and shut up, or just ask ourselves what we really want, what we really need, what would feel really good, and kind of applying that to everything, to food, to conversation, to choosing how you want to spend your weekend or every morning, all the time.
Yeah, thank you. That's just so important. I love the word. It just really jumped out at me, is slowing down. And that's really what it comes down to, is women just slowing down. We've kind of bought into this whole fast-paced lifestyle, and it's really not serving us, especially in our relationships, because it's impacting the relationship we're having with ourselves the most. And we think we're doing for others, but it's glaringly obvious that we're lacking in areas. And so I love that you're recommending the slowing down, because a lot of things happen in that quiet space if we can hold it. What are some things that women can do to create more of that space where the things are slower?
Yeah, I think one of the things we can do is really get conscious about how we step into each day and how we step out of each day. If you think about it, that's the container for everything that happens in the middle. And those days where, like, the alarm rings and you just jump out of bed and maybe snooze a few times and you just brush your teeth and do your hair real quick and throw on some clothes and you run out the door and you sit up, you're finally at your desk and you're like, oh my God, what was I supposed to do today? It's just like this kind of fragmented rush in your day, and so that leads to, guaranteed, you're going to end up on Facebook in the vortex for 3 hours. You're going to come out of it and you don't know what hit you, and all of a sudden you can feel bad about yourself, versus the way I encourage my clients and women in my course to start their day very consciously. So addressing mind, body, and spirit. So what is it that I need most? Some sort of meditation. Now, I know the word meditation can make people sweat in general, because like, I don't meditate, I don't know how to. But really it's just a matter of getting quiet and figuring out what it is. Like for me, sometimes I will dance as meditation. Sometimes I will stretch slowly as meditation. I'll always write in the morning some sort of gratitude, some sort of setting an intention for how I want to be in my day or feel in my day, or maybe a mantra, or maybe a theme of a word, like all is well, trust divine timing, whatever seems to be going at my pace or not. I need to trust that things are unfolding well, which actually can really apply to relationships too, especially women who are sort of, grasping at that, like, I need to meet someone now and then everything would be perfect and then it's going to be great and then I can start my life, There's that sense of like anxiety around it, versus trusting that things are happening as they're supposed to. And when you look back, a year from now, you can see exactly the things that were meant to unfold to allow you to show up exactly at the right place at the right time to meet that right person, and you'll be ready. So that morning routine is actually quite important in allowing you to slow down, to meet your needs on a daily basis, and to show up for whatever happens that day. So I guide women to do something for their mind, something for their body, and something for their spirit. So you can show up as your best lit up self. Because what if you did meet that one, right? And you're just like, oh, I'm so tired today. All I want to do is read my book, and you're not even looking up, and there they are. So actually, I don't believe that, because I trust in divine timing. But you can definitely help yourself in being the best of who you want to be in every interaction, so that you can, sort of give yourself the best chance to really connect with the people you're meant to connect with, the opportunities that are going to be coming your way, and the moments that can just be blissful by being present and not distracted.
That's so true. I'm so glad you shared that. Now, what do you think that is standing in the way of women having relationships? What do you think the number one thing that is stopping women or blocking them?
Yeah, from my experience, from just having lived as long as I have, and from the client conversations that I've actually just recently had, I feel like there's this external waiting for something to happen externally, and then everything will be right, and then everything will be okay. As soon as I meet this one person, like I was just saying, everything will click into place, and then it'll be good. And then I'll do what I need to do, and then I'll, it's like a waiting game, right? So instead, there's really that focus of you are your number one asset. So if you want to show up in a way that you kind of meet your life where you want it to be, that's where you start. You can only work on yourself, you can only change yourself, you can only enjoy your own life and allow the right people to be attracted to you. So don't wait. Like, there's no waiting. I think we've all experienced loss in our lives and people who are gone too soon, and maybe in those moments you're like, oh, I get it, life is short and I'm going to have fun now. And then it sort of goes away and we go back to our daily lives again. But I really do believe that saying, I don't know if Einstein said it or who said it, that you can live as if everything is a miracle or as if nothing is a miracle. And I choose everything. So that means that, I can slow down and really enjoy. Like just this morning, I thought I have this to-do list, feeling a little off. What do I need? I sat outside on my deck and just listened to the birds for like 10 minutes. And it was so peaceful, and I felt like my energy just settle and calm down from the morning of getting my son to school and that rush of first day back. And it really changed my energy, and I came back and I thought, okay, now I'm ready. Like I know what I need. I gave it to myself and go. So it's that thing, like giving yourself what you need and not waiting for the external. So love is amazing and the relationships are beautiful, but we can't pause our lives until they're ready, right? It's actually quite the opposite. When you are amazingly happy and doing the things you love, and you're pursuing your interests, you're going golfing or scuba diving or whatever, that's when you start meeting people who are sharing your same enthusiasm, right? And that's who you want to meet. You don't want to meet someone else who's depressed in the bookstore. You want to like meet someone where you're out dancing or where you're out having a great time, and then you sort of connect with that that energy of people who are doing the same things that you are.
Yes, yes, that waiting. I'm so glad you shared that with about one of your clients, and there is a lot of that going on. I think what happens is we go through stages of our life, and when we're a certain age, we expect certain things to happen, and so on. And then as time goes by, if you haven't had that relationship that you've been longing for, or you've been divorced and want to get remarried, you're waiting. You're still waiting, and it's such a waste of time, and you're looking in all the wrong places. I love that you said that it's all external. How did this happen? How does everything become so? Why are we all looking outside of ourselves for all our happiness? Where do you think that women get tripped up? And I know you just kind of covered this, but I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit more, because you're so right about that external piece. It's not bringing any happiness, not any long-term real happiness.
I do think about this a lot, actually, and I was having a conversation recently, and I think a lot of it is just the messaging that we get, that when this happens, then everything will be great. It's that fairy tale story. And I listened to some really beautiful, like Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who talks about the creative cycles of women and all kinds of beautiful, like, spiritual practices. And there is this real essence in fairy tales that we don't see it symbolically. We see it as matter of fact. Like, we're going to meet Prince Charming, everything's going to change. We're going to put on that glass slipper, everything's going to change. And so many of us grew up on this, even subconsciously, that we are waiting in a pause. And I mean, actually, I'm seeing more and more women sort of like, you know what, I'm just going to go travel. I'm going to do that. And I love seeing that. So there's definitely more and more of that, like, I have the money, I'm working, I can do what I need to do, I want to wear the clothes I want to wear, and I'm seeing more of that. And then I have a conversation with this young client who is newly divorced, and, she does have this sort of expectation of, like, okay, I met the perfect guy, now everything's great, now I'm going to start this. And, like, okay, let's back up for a second. Let's just back up, So if I were raising a daughter right now of the age of, like, trying to figure it all out, I would highly, like, really, encourage this young lady to pursue her interests, to find out what lights her up, like, pause the dating thing, in media, and I can go on a whole hour of this, but, media and what it teaches us in terms of you need to be whole to be in a relationship, and you need to be whole, and it has to be this way, and your mate has to be this way, right? There's so many stories that we are seeing externally in that media. And along with that, Jackie, I feel like going within and finding all those places that you want to fill up on your own is actually the harder thing to do, but it's also the more fulfilling, the more, exponentially growing of your own personal experience in this life. So it is kind of harder to not to fix yourself, because I don't think you're broken, but to really explore what you need and how you want to show up, and then maybe even, like, what do I want in a mate, like, even being aware of what your preferences are. Before I met my husband, I actually took a yellow pad, this is pre-Facebook days, and I wrote down what my ideal, husband or perfect partner would have. And so I think that was pretty aware to do, and I was into vision boards and all those things, but I think even starting to ask yourself the questions of, what do I want? Does this meet my needs? What would meet my needs? Is sort of that internal journey that you start to take that will really affect that filter of, nope, this is not the right person for me, or, wow, this person meets a lot of my, needs and wants on my list. So even just starting that would be really powerful to do.
Oh, I'm so glad you suggested that, because that's what I did. And so starting with that list, because once you have that list, then you really know what you're wanting, and then you can begin to, I guess, reflect and make sure that you are those things already. Those are the things you're going to work on, is the things you want, you need to become, so you can be a match to that, right?
Right. That's exactly it. And then there's a more subtle level of, like, what are the deal breakers for me, and what do I need to have, and what do I prefer, but it would be okay. Like, you start getting into the subtleties of meeting your own needs. And I love what you just said, is that you become what's on that list, so that you can sort of meet that person where they are, and you can have those important conversations early on. And there's another piece of that sort of self-care, and why I think a lot of relationships do end up really struggling a couple of years into it, is that I wanted to have those important conversations, like, day one, what is your stance on, child, discipline, and how many kids do you envision yourself having, and we're, having those uncomfortable but important conversations right away within the first few months, not to say like, oh, I'm sorry, you're out, but to at least to see even how you have the conversations as an embodiment of how you're going to be later, and not assuming that, oh, we'll figure it out, because there's a lot of things you're going to have to figure out anyway. But at least you start pulling out those priorities and the value systems, and speaking your truth, speaking what's important to you. And then if you do end up with a real, like, no, I don't want to, have 10 kids. I don't want to have any kids, like really starting to have that conversation. So a lot of women don't speak their most honest inner truth. And that is a way of taking care of yourself. And so you end up 3, 5, 7 years later, and you're like, oh, I knew that. I knew it. I didn't listen to it. I should have listened to it. I should have said what I really meant. So, and then we learn, and then, later we get more wise, but we can start off wise. We really can.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. And I know that you provided so much wisdom here, and this is so important that that we all listen to what you're saying, because if you do really want that relationship, as you said, it starts with you, your self-care, and all these wonderful strategies that you provided. I love how you start off your day a certain way. I think that's so important. And that you dance. I love that. You can get up and do a happy dance and shift your energy, right? I love to light candles, and I love the aromatherapy, and I use rose oil and all kinds of little tools around me so that I don't take any dips. If I feel myself dipping, that I have the things that I need within reach to put myself back in balance.
I love that. I love it, because that's really what it is. I mean, if you were in my office right now, you'd see my candles and my oils and my, it smells good in here, the colors on my wall, it's all very intentional. And that's how life can be too. You can really make it intentional. Doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen like they do in relationships, right? As you start meeting someone, things do pop up, but a lot of it really can be intentional, just like the way you take care of yourself.
Absolutely, because if you are maintaining that and doing your self-care that you're recommending so highly, that's very attractive to men, because you're not depending on them for your happiness. They can see that you're self-contained, you're already happy, you're taking care of yourself, and that really means self-respect, and that gives you that inner self-confidence. And I know you teach a lot of your clients how to really step into that inner self-confidence.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So it's perfect kind of lead in. And one of the biggest things that you'll experience once you really start taking care of yourself on that deep, deep level is that confidence to not take things personally in a relationship. Because, one of the books that really changed my life a long time ago was The 4 Agreements. And one of the agreements is don't take anything personally. And I've read and reread and gifted this book, and I highly recommend, especially if you're in any sort of relationship with any human being on this earth, read this book, especially the chapter on don't take anything personally, because we can all imagine the days where we're having a bad day. It's so not about the person we're about to interact with. A friend calls and you're like, oh, hi, whatever. Or you snap at someone, or you're impatient. It has nothing to do with that person. And so when you're in a relationship, there's so many layers of that happening. Stories getting triggered, how you grew up, what your parents said. Like, there's layers and layers of junk that needs to be cleared out. So you can be having an argument with someone and it's really not about you. So if you are confident in yourself, if you have spoken what you need to say, and the other person is saying something, you can have that conscious awareness that, you know what, this isn't about me. Let's just pause for a second, and let's go to another layer of like, what's going on? Are you okay? Is everything okay with you? It's not about me. Are you okay? And even starting there. Or, you walk by a friend in the morning and she's just grumpy and she doesn't say hi to you. And you're like, oh my God. And all of a sudden you're like, by the time you get home, you have a whole story around it. She didn't like me, whatever. She doesn't like me. She's got a new friend. And you're like, why don't you just call and say, are you okay? What's going on with you? Do you need to talk? Because it's not about me, probably ever. And if it is, I love to have friendships where someone would say, what you said last night hurt my feelings, and let's talk about it. And so again, it's not personal. If you have that inner core of confidence to know that like somebody's stuff is about them, and as it applies to relationships, it can really help you to own your own stuff too, because you're upset, but it's not about your partner. What is it? Is it that you didn't really say what you needed to say last night with your other friend, or you are frustrated because you had a bad day at work, or whatever it is. So it's about feeling confident enough to say, like, what, I just need time for myself. I need to clear this out. when I process it, I'll come, or maybe we want to process it together or whatever. But being confident enough to say that. So for me, my daily self-care and the rituals that I have, and like you said, the things to turn to help me realign really does like strengthen my inner core of confidence so that I can say, this is what I need, this is how I feel, this is where where I want to go, and allow that sort of honesty to be in that relationship confidently without the fear of it breaking, without, that fear of saying what you feel and feeling like the other person's going to run away. I think when I was younger, I sort of did have that feeling like, oh, that's it, it's over, that's it. We had an argument, it's over, versus like, no, this is a process. We're going to get to know each other. We're both okay. We're both evolving. And so we just learn and grow, but taking care of yourself first, yes, I think sort of helps you to do that more quickly,
Absolutely, and it builds all that self-trust and self-worth and self-confidence. It gives you the courage, as you've said all along, to be able to have those conversations and not taking things personally. That is just so important. I'm so glad that you touched on that, because that could be a deal breaker. You take something personal and then you jump to conclusions, and you don't even get going in a relationship when that kind of thing happens. So just having all that emotional maturity that really you're just speaking into today. And so I'm so grateful for this conversation. I know you're helping so many women to just reinforce how important it is to work on themselves, have that self-care piece in place, because it will change their whole life when they do.
Truly.
Yeah. So I know you have a lovely free gift. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so this is Awaken Your Inner Goddess. It comes straight from one of the first exercises in my 21 days of self-care. And the reason that I put it in there is because so much of having that inner confidence and knowing yourself is really tapping into and having that conversation with your inner goddess. And I've had women come back to me and say, wow, I never even realized I wasn't connected with her. Like, wow, this really shifted the way I see myself. And now I love to take baths and I love to, go to the spa, and I'm doing things. I can see myself doing things now to connect. So I take you through a process of having a conversation and awakening that inner goddess so that you can start to really feel good about receiving pleasure and starting to figure out what you want on a daily basis and giving it to yourself, and then seeing how that affects other parts of your life. So I love this exercise. It's one of my favorites to give as a gift, and I hope your audience enjoys it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Thank you. That's so generous of you. And by the way, if you're wanting to download Elena's free gift, you can go ahead and click right below the video. There's a little click here, and it'll immediately download into your inbox, so you can take advantage of that right away. And one more thing I want to let everybody know, that if you want to see this interview again, which I think you do, you can watch it over and over again, because she's made so many great points that are so important, that you can go to engaged@neh.com/upgrade and purchase this interview and the entire summit if you'd like. And just wanted to let everybody know that I'm so grateful that you are participating in the summit. Everything you're sharing with us is so wonderful, and I know you're helping so many women worldwide to come into their own inner power and inner sparkle and so on. So thank you so much for being a part of it. Such a great event.
Thank you. I love that inner sparkle. I'm going to take that. Thank you. It's great. Yeah,
you're so sparkly. You have such a vibe, light around you, and so I love hearing you talk.
Yeah.
You're living.
It's the self-care.
Self-care. It's all about self-care. Thank you, Elena, for being here. I really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, everyone.
Thank you, Jackie.
Bye-bye.